This is Tom, and welcome back to Bryn Mawr RC. Today, in our video, we're going to continue the building of the Land Rover Defender 90 CC01 chassis from Tamiya. Today, we're going to be working on the dampers, all dampers for the whole week. This step is to actually attach the front dampers. Before we do that, we're actually going to put the spring over it because this suspension for this car is spring over shock or spring over a damper. So quite literally, a spring slips on the outside of the shock. So let's go ahead and move forward with that. The shocks for the front and the rear are the same on this particular model, so it doesn't matter which one I choose. So the first thing we're going to slip on is a piece called D4, and then the spring over that, and then we have to compress the spring to slip on this little collar, which will ultimately keep the spring in place and in some tension. So here we go. There is the shock with a spring over it. So the first collar we wrapped on is a collar that allows us to pre-tension the spring. So if we wanted the spring to actually be in more tension, we can just slip the collar down, tighten it up. So for now, I think I'm just going to leave maximum spring height here. So for now, I'm just going to leave it at the least sprung setting. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly put in this screw around this collar so we don't lose it. For now, let's just drive this screw home. So, one of two dampers with spring complete for the front. Let's do the second one. Should be quick. So those are the two front dampers with springs complete. And at this point, then we can attach it to the front of the chassis. So let me bring the chassis in here so you can see it. Yeah, let me get the instructions out here. So on this step, we're going to do two things. We'll actually attach the damper, and then we'll actually attach the steering rod. And I think I'll do the steering rod. Maybe I'll do the steering rod first. So recall at the time where we attached this steering rod onto the model. So at this point, we are actually going to snap it onto the upright. Hopefully. There we go. There's that one. Let's do the other side. Get the steering rod out here. it's going to go on the ball joint that's on the upright. That was pretty easy. I have a feeling when we get into fine tuning, that one's going to have to be tuned a little bit. This rod looks a little different than that rod over there. You probably can't see it in the camera, but I think there's some fine tuning to do there. Let's worry about that when we get to that point. Okay, now and actually attaching the dampers. So the top of the damper is actually going to be, top of the damper will actually go onto this ball joint here that we installed some time ago. And I'm going to do the far side first, and then I'll come back and okay, I got that on and I couldn't even see it. Clearly it's much easier to do it with the model on the side. So let me get this next one on and we'll go back to that side. Okay, so both dampers are installed, both front dampers are installed on the upper ball joint there. Now we will attach with a screw to the lower arms, and that will be next. Maybe the shock is too long and I need to tighten up that a little bit, because it sure seems like it's pushing it back down too far. Although maybe that's the way it should be. We'll see. I might have to look that one up. Moving on to the other side. Okay, that there is the completion of step 21. So installation onto the model, onto the chassis of the shock with the spring over, and the attaching of the steering rod. So I'm thinking at this point, we're done with 21. And we'll move on to step 22, which is effectively the same thing, but in the rear. But attaching the dampers, spring over to the rear. The first part of attaching the spring is the same as step 21, so I went ahead and just did this quickly, and we'll do the last one for the rear. Okay, there we go. So now we can actually attach it to the rear. And attaching to the rear, again, first we are going to pop onto the ball joint that pre-exists. There we go. Ooh, that one was better. I got it by the hand. And we'll do the same thing over here. Can you see? Probably not. There we go. Okay. Much easier than the fronts. Much easier. My goodness. Okay. So those two are on. Now, I need to get... Alrighty then. That is the end of step 22 and the end of all the springs and dampers. So here we have it. Getting closer, people. Well, that is the end of all the damper work for this week. This is Tom with Bryn Mawr RC. Thank you for joining. Take care, be safe, and hope to see you next week on Bryn Mawr RC. Thank you. Bye.